Michelle, it's great to have you back. And today we're going to be talking about something near and dear to every boater, no matter what kind of boat you have, where you're going, and that's garbage.
That's right.
In your experience, what are some of the things that you did to help you deal with garbage, reducing it and being more aware of it for our environment?
Absolutely. I mean, this was a big focus for me because before I went on my year-long sailing journey, I had never lived on a boat. And it occurred to me at one point during the planning that, okay, we're going to be at sea sometimes for a week, sometimes for 10 days, sometimes for 3 weeks. What do you do with the trash? What happens to all this trash? First of all, there's not a lot of space on a boat to store a lot of trash. There's not, I mean, there's a smell involved that you don't want to deal with all the time. Like, where do you put the trash? Definitely don't want the trash to go into the sea because nobody wants that. That's important. So I spent a lot of time thinking about trash. I was trying to find a solution. And once we started, in the beginning, it was short passages. And I was already thinking about what do we do? What do we do? So we knew we didn't want a lot of plastic bottles, didn't want a lot of small plastic water bottles, for example. And we wanted to reduce trash that way. But so I started searching online when talking to other sailors about what they did with their trash. And, it starts with before you leave the pier, before you leave the dock, but before you untie the lines, get rid of things like cereal boxes and, excessive trash, things that, are going to be big trash items later that you don't want to have to deal with. So you just throw those away before you go out to sea. You
So most of
unpack
that's
your
just the
cereal.
it's just the packaging, right? Getting rid of the packaging.
Packaging, you get rid of the packaging, exactly, and then you don't have that trash when you're at sea. So think about the ways that you can get just if you have if you like cookies and you have a box of cookies, put the cookies in a tin or a glass container or some other airtight container and get rid of the packaging. Those are things that take up a lot of space on a boat. um, and then you have to deal with it. Think about things like not having so many small bottles of liquid, small soda bottles or small water bottles.
Mhm.
Try to avoid those if you can. And you need fresh water on board, especially if you're going on a 3 week passage. You need a lot of fresh water, and we had a 200-liter tank of fresh water, but that's not enough for a 3 week passage for two people and two dogs. So we had to buy some water that we would take with us because we also didn't have a water filtration system. We didn't have a way to turn seawater to
Right.
fresh water, which that is a solution, but it's not one that we had. But okay, so we would buy the larger containers. Instead of buying 3 cases of small water bottles, we would buy one 10-liter water bottle. And so that reduces your plastic a lot. But then, I got the bright idea to recycle that huge bottle. So once that water's gone, you can start stuffing trash into that large water jug. And you can get a lot of trash in those bottles. And I think on our 3 week crossing, we filled two of them. And so we had two, it was either 8 or 10-liter bottles. I think they might have been 8 liter. So we had two of those bottles full of trash. And we did have one other trash bag that had like cans and things like that in it that we couldn't smush up small enough to get in there. But that was 3 weeks worth of trash. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it was.
Compared to what two people do on land in 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just involves brushing up that trash just as small as you can make it and stuffing it inside the bigger thing. And you can't imagine how much you can smush in there. Now, some things you can put out to sea, biodegradable things like eggshells and banana peels and orange peels and things like that. You can overboard, but you want to put over, you would not want to throw any other kind of trash overboard at all. You don't want to do that. You don't want to hurt our ocean and take away from the experience and from the environment. So those are good ideas. But we also had a good idea about waste because waste. when you think of this. That was another thing I thought a lot about for a really long time is, okay, we have a head and we can flush the actual waste, but you have to wipe yourself, you know. And some people do use what they call biodegradable toilet paper, but I'm not convinced that it's okay to put in the sea. And also, it can clog your system. You just can't. But you don't want to just throw those soiled paper in a trash can right there in the head, that because there's a smell involved, as we all know. This is kind of gross, but
That's
we need to talk about it,
absolutely,
right?
yeah. Yeah. Nobody's going to
So
avoid it when they're out there.
right. So I'm a mother, and I can remember when I had my babies many years, a couple of decades ago, just come out with this great invention called the diaper genie. And I thought it was the greatest invention that had ever been made, because you would change the baby's diaper and the smell was ridiculous. And I would roll it up and you'd put it inside this diaper genie and twist it, and it rolled it up like little rolls, you know, and it would hold a lot of them, but it would contain the smell inside the container. And so I started thinking about that maybe we should just get a diaper genie on board. And even though we don't wear diapers, but we could easily put the toilet paper into this mechanism, and it worked. And on a 3-week passage, we only used one diaper genie.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant too. And there was no smell. And then just
Mhm.
when you get on land, of course, you have to dispose of that along with your other trash that you've collected. But really felt like we did a good job on this trash task. You know, I really researched it and I came up with some creative ideas of my own. And all boaters become creative when there's a challenge like this. But not only did it reduce the smell on board, it reduced just the footprint of the trash on board. So everything was smaller, everything was less. And of course, nothing went overboard that shouldn't.
Well, and what I'm hearing you saying is that a lot of this had to do with planning, like
Yes,
learning about what is ahead of you and planning for these things. Because if
absolutely.
you don't remove the packaging, and we all know like a lot of the packaging is absurd,
It's
and it all
ridiculous,
ends up
right?
in the garbage, and single-use plastic bags, and you mentioned water bottles, and
Yep.
then the trash. And I think, if more people would plan a little bit further ahead, not just on a boat but on land, they would also see an impact in the way in which they do life, and it all adds up into what we see happening in our oceans.